Hi everyone, how you doing? It's Peter Doak here and Martin Gilchrist from Gilchrist and Co. Chartered Accountants, and I'm here from PDG Advertising, as you can probably see in backwards writing, probably up in the top corner. This is episode 12, 13. Martin, you and I were talking about it just before we came on. And we are delighted to be bringing you another episode of the Business Conversations videos. Martin, how are things going? How's the last week been for you?
It's not episode 13 because we don't have an episode 13. It'll either be 12 and 14. Just skip over episode 13. Things have been incredibly good. Just two things I really would want to highlight from this week's. You used to ask a lovely question, Peter. What has been the big thing that's happened to you this week? And this week, I got to go out for lunch in Belfast with two friends of mine that didn't know each other. So two friends from business. One of them is the chief executive of a highly successful wealth management company that is growing exponentially. And this guy is an inspiration to me. 3 or 4 years ago, there was only 4 people in his team. Now there's 40, and that's over the pace of time that COVID is there. And I got to introduce them to another fella. I would love to tell you who they were because they're great people, but without asking permission, I'll not mention any names. The other fella is a fella I've known since about 13 or 14 years ago. We were in the first cohort of the Propel program, which is a business launcher, business start program. And he's still a young man now, but he was on that program with me. And I can remember at the time thinking, this is one smart cookie. He's going to go places. Now, I don't think it was the business that he was putting through the Propel program that went places, but he picked up his learnings from that and really has done well in life. You know, he really has done well for himself, and he's going on to bigger and more exciting things. But the brilliant thing for me was those two men, they didn't know each other until I brought them together over lunch in Belfast. And the conversation at that table was fantastic. It was entertaining. It was informative. It was engaging. It was motivating. It was inspirational. And I went away feeling lifted. I genuinely went away from them thinking that was a great conversation. That's the first thing. The second thing was, I see Declan's just popped on there. My friend Declan Barry gave me a call this afternoon with a fantastic referral. Again, I'm not mentioning any names and everything else, client confidentiality and all that good stuff. But to have a friend or have anyone, but to have someone of Declan's status and reputation and credibility feel that you're worthy, and it really does like that, to feel that you're worthy to be referred to someone shows that they trust you. You know, it's putting your neck out. Anytime you give a referral to somebody, it's putting your neck out. So those two things this week, and with one other, it's just been a really busy week of new client interaction, conversation, all that type of stuff. But I think it was to pick out two things in a business sense. That's this week.
That's amazing. You're right. It feels like quite a privilege when someone says, "We think that you could do business with this person,"
Absolutely.
And that's quite amazing. I have been having a very busy week as well. So many different conversations, so many different business conversations. And something that I've thought is really cool is as we said, we've done 12, 13, who knows how many we've done of these conversations. And interestingly, we've got a number that are lined up now for the next few weeks of guests that are coming in. And we've got a guest coming in tonight, and he'll be in shortly. He's waiting patiently in the waiting room, and I'm very excited about that. But before our guest comes in, I just wanted to share, I've had conversations with people this week about this video cast and this video series, and it's quite incredible because we maybe have, a few wonderful people in our live audience tonight, and more will likely come in. But we also have an audience now on YouTube whenever we upload these videos after the effect. And there's not a massive amount of back and forward. So you don't know how many people are seeing the videos and how much impact you're having. And in the last week, there's been 2 interactions of people that I had no idea were listening to this video cast and watching the video and engaging with it. And they were able to mention things that we had talked about on the video cast. So I thought that was quite astounding. Whenever you do something like this, and whenever you put this kind of content out there, you literally don't know who's watching, and you don't know who you're influencing. And I think that's quite amazing. So it's a real great thing for anybody that wants to, come on and join us, and for our future guests. And I guess speaking of our guests, perhaps now it's time to introduce and bring our guest in. Martin, do you want to let the people know who our guest is this evening?
Yes, absolutely. We've got a fantastic guest this evening. Before I bring him in, very, very quickly, I want to give a shout out to the people who have joined us already. Ruth is going to actually be joining us in a couple of weeks' time. So, Ruth, thank you very much for coming on this evening. And maybe, Peter, later on in the program, you can give a little bit of more introduction to Ruth and what Ruth does. It's fantastic to have her, and I cannot wait to have her on the program. And also past guests, Declan Barry and James Perry, who have been fantastic supporters of what we do. And what we're hoping to do at some stage in the future is bring the what do you call it? What do you call people at university? Alumni, essentially, from these conversations together for dinner at some stage. And Shane's very kindly agreed to pay. So on that note, I'm delighted to have Shane McCann join us on the conversation tonight with his big fat wallet, which is going to pay for dinner going forward. Shane, how are you?
Thank you very much, Martin. If I had known about that, I don't think I would have come along, but thank you.
You're very welcome. Shane, do you know what? This hour goes in very quick. We're only here till 9 o'clock, and there's a whole pile of stuff that me and Peter cannot wait to get to you about. But before we get into that, just a little bit of guidance for anybody who's watching. Ruth, Declan, and James, the value comes when you guys contribute and comment and ask questions. I would love you to put questions into the feed. And also, if there's anything that you want us to give a shout out about, any upcoming events, services, or anything, please put it on there, because if you don't put it on, we can't read it out. So let's do that. Having said that, Shane, this is about you. It's the Shane McCann night. You are the man, the VIP, the special guest, the person everybody wants to hear about. So tell us, Shane, a little bit about you. Who is Shane McCann the man?
Who's Shane McCann the man? Well, I'm a solicitor. I run my own practice called SG Murphy Solicitors. A lot of you probably know me through networking. I founded Bismarang. I've been involved in lots of different networking initiatives over the years and organizing network events. So that's really one of my big passions, is creating connections and communities. So that's me in a short sentence or two.
You were a boxer.
What? I don't know if I'll go that far. I did a bit of kickboxing, very small amount. I wasn't very good at it. So
Did you know that, Peter? Did you know that Shane McCann got into a ring with a pair of gloves on him and battered people?
I had heard this, which is why I try to keep on the right side of Shane McCann whenever I'm interacting with him. So there will be no change in that this evening. What made you want to be a solicitor, Shane? What brought you down that path?
I've been asked this a few times and I've thought about it, but because sometimes you're in a career and you always wonder, well, why am I actually doing this? Why am I not? I don't know. Why am I not an engineer? Why am I not a doctor? Why am I not a professional scuba diver? Sorry.
That's the scuba diving team.
Right.
Texting to say there's an emergency with one of the goggles. And
no, that's his parachute jump team. They can't make the jump without him. That's NASA. Yeah. They're sending a rocket to the moon. NASA are rigging you.
You have to laugh at these things. Right. Very sorry about that. Martin, you can edit that out, hopefully.
There is no edit. It's all live.
No. Yes. So why did I become a solicitor? Well, my brother, I suppose, answered this at my wedding day during the best man speech when he held up a contract that I had uh, drafted when I think it was about 10 or 11. And it was a contract that I'd written. He's 6 years older than me, and he was going to Blaney Disco, and he needed the lend of, I think it was £10. And so rather than just giving them the £10, I wrote up a contract, a loan agreement, whereby I set out the terms and the interest, and when it had to be repaid and had to be witnessed by my sister, etc. So I still have that. I still have that, and I think I need to frame it and put it up in my office wall somewhere.
Would you
But
say you were? Would you say, Shane, you were an easy child to get along with?
probably not, I thought I was. Probably, I would say my siblings probably disagree. I guess the way I would put it is, I like to say I like to have discussions. Um, and my wife probably says I'm just a contrary so and so who just likes to argue all the time. But I like to discuss things. I find it interesting. I like to negotiate. This is something I enjoy doing. Other people sometimes might find that stressful and don't like that sort of thing, but I
I don't.
enjoy it.
I,
So
I,
I guess
I,
I'm suited to being a lawyer. No
I,
Scooby
I,
Doo.
I would still hide behind the sofa when watching Scooby Doo. I'm just no good. When people fight on Coronation Street, I feel bad. I am really bad at any sort of conflict. So we do need people like you, Shane, that can do that. Ruth Young, who is on with us this evening, asked a question that relates to that. What's your fondest childhood memory, Shane?
Hmm. Fondest childhood memory.
It's a good
That's a,
one.
that is a good one. And weirdly, even though it's a very important question, it's something I haven't really thought about.
Yeah,
My fondest childhood memory. It's probably, I don't know if I have like a specific cousin. I remember sitting on my mother's knee and blah blah blah. I think it's just a general feeling of different sort of events of being um Christmas time, probably. Christmas Day, sitting eating
yeah,
Christmas dinner and just knowing you're just chilling out watching a movie afterwards. Or summer times going staying with my cousins, going on holidays, something like that. But I
yeah.
don't know if I got one specific one. I think it's more those kind of
General
things,
feeling.
a general feeling around those things, but I don't think I can pick out one that stands above all the rest. So
Peter?
something might come to me by the end of the show. I'll have it.
Yeah. No, if it comes to you, let's say, Peter, do you have a standout childhood memory? I think that's a wonderful question.
Hmm.
Uh, Summers, anything that involved not being in school was good for me. I was happy if I wasn't being made to do work, I guess. I think that was my main focus. And this is slightly related, but it's so crazy. I've enrolled in a course in SRC here for a year. It's a counseling course. It's just something I've always
Oh,
been interested in. It's not very in-depth. It's it's one evening a week. It's probably like the most entry level one you could get, like collect 10 crisp bags and you get a go on this course. But when I was in school,
collect 10 crisp bags.
when I was in school, I would watch the clock in every class, literally every class, even the classes that I kind of enjoyed. I would watch the clock tick down to the second that I could get out of it. I had no interest. I'm completely different now. I love learning and I love all that stuff, but it's so interesting how things change as you grow up and you get older. Martin, what about you? What's your favorite childhood memory?
See, on different days, you're going to get a different answer because it's just whatever. I think when you think back, so what I'm trying to do is think back to my earliest memories. And very much like Shane, it probably involves summer holidays or Christmas holidays or Santa coming or stuff like this. But there's one, just as I was saying, what's my earliest childhood memory? And I was very close, or I was raised like when my parents were working, I was raised by my grandmother as a very young child, and my grandmother lived in a place called Four Winds in Belfast. And in the Four Winds, there's a whole lot of semi-detached houses, little red brick, three up, two down. I don't know, three down, two up, but houses. And were small houses. When I go back to them now, I don't remember them as a child, them being so small, and the rooms being so small. But when I go back into them now, they were tiny little houses with a tiny little back garden. But to me, that was just that back garden was like an adventure. There was trees and there's a big hedge in the back that you could climb into and all the rest. And I can remember one of my earliest memories is going way down to the flower bed at the bottom of the garden with me and my cousin, and we were digging a tunnel to Australia because we'd seen it on a program that we were watching this weekend. So where they dug this tunnel and came out in Australia where the kangaroos were, and we spent a whole day digging this. We got about this deep, because we were digging it with spoons or something, and we hit mud or rock very quickly. And but it's just the sheer joy of innocence, of not knowing that what you're doing doesn't make sense. And sometimes we bring it back to a business concept. Sometimes you're better off when you're starting out in a project in business that you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know how hard it's going to be, or that it's maybe not possible, or maybe that somebody else has tried it before and they didn't succeed. Because if you have the joy of innocence, at least get the few of the steps down the road before it's too late to turn back, it can drive you a wrong way. So yeah, that would be one of many fond childhood memories. But
Absolutely.
Just when you're talking about the digging to Australia, we must be similar age, Martin, because I must have watched the same show because I remember that as well. Trying to dig my way to Australia, and I think I got about that far as well. And I think that hole in the ground was there for a long time afterwards. But
an
I can't
ongoing
remember.
project.
Yeah, and I remember also trying to dig a swimming pool. That also didn't work. I didn't realize that when you put the water in and there's nothing to keep it there, that it's going to very quickly disappear again.
All grand plans. Shane, what is the idea that I have of solicitors, of you having your own practice, is of a Harvey Specter Suits kind of scenario. If you've ever seen that show, where it's all high-powered lawyers and Harvey Specter, and I think it's called Gabriel Macht and Meghan Markle and all the rest of them all doing high drama things at high drama times. What's the reality?
I haven't watched the show, but I get a feeling what it's like. Haven't watched other similar type shows. No, I wouldn't say the reality is quite as exciting as that. I mean, there are times when you do exciting stuff. Yeah, exactly, Declan. More like Frank Spencer than Harvey Specter. But yes, there are times when you do exciting work and exciting things happen, etc. But like any job, it's putting in the hours and doing the hard work and the hard graft. And it's, for me anyway, I'm not maybe in some of the, if I was in New York or whatever, maybe it is like that, all exciting all the time. But I think like any job, it's you do your work, you get stuck in, and ultimately, like any work, you have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy the ordinary days. If you're going into law, expecting it to be all exciting and razzmatazz and fancy suits and fancy cars and all of that, then you're going to be disappointed, because even if it is like that, you're going to get bored of that very, very quickly. I think for any work that you do, you have to learn to enjoy the day-to-day small bits and pieces of work that make up the majority of what you do. If you do that, then you'll always you'll do well no matter what it is. And I think it's a skill in its own, is finding a passion for what you're doing, and the work that you do. And I think sometimes people don't realize that power of finding that passion is within your control. It's not necessarily outside your control. It's something that's within your control. And that's something I'm really starting to, I suppose, to get older, learn more and more, that sometimes you can sort of build that and grow that.
I think that's an excellent point, Shane. And nobody, that's the first time I've heard that expressed. It's the first time I heard somebody say, find a way to enjoy the minutiae or the mundane of what it is that you do, the regular day-to-day stuff that you have to do day in, day out. Because that's what it's taken me. That's what we've found at Gilchrist and Co. Michelle and I now know what we really enjoy about our work. And it's stuff that other people might not enjoy. I love administration. I spend hours every day with lists of stuff that has to get done and crossing it off, and timetables and diaries and calls that have to be made at certain times and deadlines that have to be met. And I love the whole organization of that and pulling stuff together and making stuff happen and making sure everything's done on time. Michelle, not so much, but she loves the minutiae of tax detail and the professional acumen and knowledge and application and concentration and stuff that goes into do that. And she gets to do that. And when you work out what you do and are able to apply yourself to that, even though it may not seem like to anybody else like the most exciting thing in the world, it makes work more than bearable. It makes your life's job a pleasure to an extent. We all have tough days and tough hours and tough moments. But if you can settle into the groove of what it is that you're all about and find a way to make that as comfortable as possible, it definitely makes life a lot easier. Peter, your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I think I heard and have been learning more and more, like the both of you, that getting comfortable in boredom can be quite a path to success. And by boredom, I don't mean that things are mind-numbingly boring. I mean more repetition, mastering the craft, doing the work and getting comfortable with the things. And then while you're talking, I'm thinking, those boring things or those things that are everyday things to you actually matter a huge amount to your customers and the people that you're doing it for. Obviously, sometimes that can get lost in the fog. And speaking of things that mean a lot to people, Shane, you might not know this. I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but a couple of years ago, actually, it's at least 3-4 years ago, I was looking for an office, and it's actually this office that we ended up with. And I, through knowing you from different networking and things like that, I needed to talk to a solicitor in some way to talk about the rental agreement that I was going to sign. And I went to you and said, I don't know anybody to talk about this. I don't know anybody that can help me make sure I'm doing the right thing. Can you pass on a name? And you did. And the person that we got to, long story short, ended up saving us 400 quid on the consultation of the rental agreement. And I am sure that that's a tiny amount compared to some of the deals and things like that we all did. But back whenever we were getting this office that I'm sitting in right now, it meant a huge amount to me. Now that doesn't mean that I'm going to split you like 150 quid and throw you that, but I really appreciate it.
And splitting 150 quid out of 400 quid, that wouldn't be
you
fair.
don't get any either.
Is that not going towards the dinner?
No,
I think I should.
That's all on you. That's all on you.
And then fish and chips.
I have another question for you. What's it like? Because I know a little bit more about your path as we've interacted over the years. I know that you were working for solicitors for times, and now you have your own practice. What's that journey like? The transition between that to what you're doing now?
I think the biggest thing is just the fact that you're responsible for everything. The buck stops with you. Even if it's not necessarily your fault, it is your fault. If there's something going wrong, ultimately the buck stops with you, and you're responsible for everything that happens that's associated with your firm. And that's difficult because you're used to, if you're an employee, you deal with your own stuff, you do your own stuff, other people do their own stuff, and that's their responsibility, and your responsibility is dealing with your stuff. But when you become an employer and when you have your own firm, that changes. You're now responsible for everybody, ultimately, and what they're doing. And if they're not doing the job right, you're responsible for what they're doing and how they do it. So that's a big thing. And just the general fact that there's so many different strands of different things you have to do. You're not just doing your day-to-day file work. You could absolutely everything from stationery that has to be ordered to to paying the bills to absolutely everything you have to be thinking about, where it's marketed in the firm, everything you have to be thinking about and moving it forward. And it's very much a case of spinning a lot of plates at the one time and ensuring that none of them are falling down and crashing, because when you have so much stuff to do, it can be difficult to do that. And I guess you have to become very, very organized and very on top of things, or else ultimately a few plates will crash.
Mhm. And what's the ultimate outworkings of all this? 10 years from now, we come back on to business conversations. Shane McCann and SG Murphy and Co. have been incredibly successful. It's fulfilled all your dreams, hopes, and aspirations. What does that look like? What are you doing? Not what the business is doing. What's Shane McCann doing in that
Shane
situation?
McCann. I would like to think I'd be in the position where I'm focused more on the strategy of the brand and the firm and growing it. That's my focus, and I have in place the right people who are skilled in the right areas to tackle all the other different elements of running the business, and also the right solicitors there to actually do the work. So yeah, that's where I see myself in 10 years, whatever length of time that's going to be.
Peter, where are you going to be in 10 years? I know your ultimate ambition is global. It's in the name of your business, global, world domination, that type of stuff. But if you don't quite get there in 10 years, what would you be? Or is that 10 years? Is that the 10-year plan?
No, I've learned now to, yes, Martin, world domination is the ultimate aim, but I've learned now to put down our goals and work with the team on pointing the ship in the right direction. Putting down a timeline, sure, saying in a year we'll be here, in 5 years we'll be here, and focusing on it. But I've learned that regularly we meet the goal and the target of what we're doing, but rarely within the timeline that we're supposed to do it for the business. I noticed that I put down goals and aspirations. I write them down and I kind of forget about them, and I say we're going to have this done by that time. Sometimes I'll drive towards it and get very disappointed that it didn't happen by the time I wanted it to happen. I look back 6 months later and I go, oh, we made that 3 months after we were supposed to, and I didn't even notice it because I was too focused on the next thing that I was trying to achieve. That's taught me to be a little less hard on myself about the goals that we're trying to achieve. I think that's very important. But in 10 years, we definitely would want to be a bigger team. I'd want to have, at least, I don't know, 10, 20 people working on adverts for PDG advertising for our customers all over the world. It's really interesting, Martin. You said about how you were talking to someone who now has like 40 people working for them. And we have, a few people working for us here, but I cannot imagine what that looks like at 10, at 40, at 50, at 1,000 people. So in 10 years, if I'm somewhere on that journey of more people and PDG advertising is a real force, I'll be happy with that. What does it look like for you, Martin?
Funny, we were talking about this morning. Michelle and I were talking about it. We went out for breakfast this morning. Got up early, about 7 o'clock, headed into Newcastle. Had breakfast and ate in a wee place called the Savoy Cafe. James knows it. James Perry's on with us this evening, and we've been there for lunch a couple of times. But then we went for a stroll along the promenade. Another tough day at Gilchrist and Co. And as we were strolling around, we were thinking about this, talking about it, because we talk about it all the time. It's like, not all day, every day, but it comes up in conversation. Where are we going? Why are we doing it? What do we want to do next? And it's constant fine tuning of what Gilchrist and Co is and what our message is and who our clients are and what our services are. And we've pretty much got all of that pinned down. And essentially where we stand at the moment is Michelle and I have enough. We have too many TVs. We have too many cars sitting in the driveway. How many houses do you need? We've enough stuff. We've enough stuff. So then it is, well, what do? Do you stop being ambitious? No, of course you don't stop being ambitious, but it's not an ambition for a bigger practice and more money. Essentially what we're ambition for is, and this may sound corny, going, aye, Marty, wise up. That's just noise. But when you hear this is what I'm going to say. You're going to, aye, Marty, yeah, pull the other one. That's what you really want. What we really want is the 300 clients that we have now, for us to fine-tune our service, that when they look at us and compare us to other accountants, they're not going to get it better anywhere else in terms of value. Maybe not in terms of price. There are people that are cheaper than we are, but there's a reason for that. But in terms of value, that our clients understand and know the value of what we're providing them with, and that we're providing whatever it is so that it is value, and that we get better and better at that. So 10 years from now, when I look around, I want to be able to say to you guys, see, 10 years ago when we said this, I still have all those 300 clients. And we don't have any more clients, but we're making a lot more money because the value we're providing to the clients that we know, that we respect, that we trust has grown so much that we're making more money. They're still happy, we're still happy, but we're making more money off it. How does that work? I'll give you one example of how that works, because you may go, well, how do you make more money if you don't have any more clients? Our clients come through the door, and as a business startup or somebody in the early stages of their professional career, they may only need a self-assessment tax return. So that's what, £300 plus VAT. But after a couple of months, they may, or a year or so, they may exceed the VAT threshold, which is £85,000 of taxable sales. So they'll need a VAT registration, which is £100 plus VAT, and they'll need quarterly VAT returns at £160 plus VAT. And then they may go after, when their turnover exceeds a certain amount, may go, well, we need to be a limited company for the tax purpose. That's another £600. And a client that takes all four of our services, because we only offer full services, could be worth over £2,500, potentially, one client. Now, if we had all 300 clients paying us £2,500, it doesn't take an accountant to work out how much annual turnover you have, with not very much increase in cost for us, because we could easily manage all those services for all our clients right now if we just decided that that's what we're going to do. So essentially in 10 years time, to be as close to as possible as our 300 clients, using as much of our services as they can, and those clients being trusted, respected, with dignity and feeling that they're appreciated. That scenario, that's what I want.
All a work in progress. Go ahead, Shane.
Yep, Peter, I was just going to ask you, just in relation to you were saying about, your goals and your goal setting. Do you, is that something across your firm that, that all the employees know about it? Do you put it up on the wall? Is it something that you come together and decide what the goals are, or something that you just dictate these are the goals, or something you just keep to yourself?
Dictate, completely tell people exactly what they're going to do and when. No.
That's what he does with me. That's what he does with me. He just dictates. He comes on here and says, Martin, we're doing it this way. Like it or love it.
No, the
No, he doesn't really.
process is always, so I look at it in a couple of different ways. So we create aspirations of where we want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is monetary. So we want to create a business that is, £2 million a year in revenue. Let's say that's one of our goals. It's a sub goal actually. So let's be totally honest. I sit and dream this stuff up at times whenever I'm, figuring out where I want to go with my life and what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And ultimately what I want to do is help people and businesses communicate better for no other reason than I'm fascinated by it. I love watching people communicate. I love listening to people. I love talking to people. I love these conversations that we're having here and now. And I feel like I have a talent when it comes to business communication to their customers, whether that's B2B or B2C. So I've nothing better to do in life than go after that and see if I can be the best that I can possibly be at that. And where that brings me to is I want our agency to be the go-to agency for, let's say, Tesla need a communications agency, or let's say Cato down the road need a communications agency, or let's say the corner shop needs a communications agency. I want us to be that person. So to make that into reality, and when I'm dreaming all that stuff up, I'm quite proactive in what I do. So I break it down and go, what are the steps that are going to get me to there? I believe that you can't eat an elephant all in one bite. So you have to work on it bit by bit. So one of those goals, like 2 million a year in revenue, is something that I think we can achieve. And when I break it down in that way, that whenever we make it to that, we will have the resources to advertise and connect with those larger companies and compete with other agencies that are out there. So all of that happens sort of in my head and when I'm thinking about where we're going. But I then break it down as soon as I kind of figure out that direction. I break it down and bring in the team, and I say, "This is where we want to go. This is where I want to go. And is this a place where you want to come with me?" And usually, whenever we talk about that, the team say, "Absolutely." We've never had it where we go, "Geez, no, absolutely not. We don't want to do that." Then what I do is I say, "Right, if that's what we're going to do, you know your area of expertise. How can you contribute to getting to that goal?" And I will never give someone a target and say, "You have to make this. You have to do this." I will always, for want of a better expression, push it back on them so that they're responsible for what they're doing and invested in it. So that partnership of, this is where I want to go, and the person is then empowered to say, this is how I can contribute to that. And then we align our goals and our targets to get to that place together. And there's something on my last thing on that is, there's something really special that happens when all team members are working towards the same goal and know what the goal is and are all working really hard to get there. More often than not, you will get there, but there's a real difference between a team that doesn't know what the goal is and aren't working together, and a team that knows what the goal is and are working together and care about getting there. So if I can create that feeling in this business, I know we will reach that goal of being the best communications agency that we can possibly be. Shane,
is there
what do
something?
you? Sorry, Martin. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to pick up on that, Peter. Is there something on the wall that the staff can see? So as I look at the wall behind my PC now, I have a whole lot of different pieces of paper and charts and information, everything from our annual budget to our billing targets to there's a big sheet and it just says 4 words and it says, or 3 words, and it says wait, big space, 10, and then minutes. And that's what I have to do every time somebody annoys me. And I look at that and I go, wait, before replying with an email or whatever it might be, you might just have one of those minutes, or when I'm thinking about having a wee Skype or whatever it is, wait 10 minutes. But over here, you can't see it, but there's a graph on the wall. And up to now, that graph goes like that there. And then from now forward, it just goes to just a lovely sweet curve. And that graph is our growth curve. So it's a graphical representation of where we want Gilchrist to go. And it's now 15 years old, that graph. So I can go back 15 years and see where basically it's a graph based on gross sales. And we can see the ups and downs up to now over the last 15 years. But see, if you draw a line through the ups and downs, the graph follows. So we're on track of where we want to go. But it's there for me to look at every day so that on good days, I'm reminded that, you know what, you can't get complacent. And on bad days, and go, you know what, this is all part of the journey. And we will be back on target because I can see the graph and that's the way it goes. Keep cranking that handle, keep doing the work, and the graph works itself out. So do you have something like that, the staff can say? And Shane, the same to you. Do you have something like that represents?
Before I hand over to Shane, I would just echo exactly what you're doing and saying, all of the things that you have in front of you. I don't think you can underestimate the power of seeing something like that every day. For myself, I have it in my book. You might see a framed picture over there that has our values and our goals in there in the background. Over on this side, try to show you, we have a map of the world, which will plot little places whenever we take over them. So some symbols and having things written down. And I just wanted to mention James Perry, who's on the call right now. He told me something once. He said, when you're writing that stuff down every day and you're saying, this is what I'm going to do, you program yourself for it to actually, for you to focus on it more, for it to be there present all the time. So I find when I write these things down every day, like what our goals are and what we're going to achieve and what we're doing, it really helps to keep those front of mind. What do you do with yourself and the team, Shane?
Before I answer, can I ask you a couple of questions, because I'm finding this very interesting, mainly because I'm trying to find out more about this and to do these things more. You were saying that you write down every day. Do you do your goal setting, whatever you would call it, like on a regular basis? Like, do you have a specific strategy? Is this like every quarter you sit down with the team and write out what your next quarter goals are? Is it monthly? Is it 6 months, yearly?
Very interesting. So our goals are usually about a year later. So we'll say we want to be here in a year. That's where we want to be. What we do at the start, we break it down into tasks. So one good example is, what do we need to do to make sure that our current, so for example, if we want to get to 2 million a year, in revenue, we have to make sure that we don't have a massive churn of customers. So something that's incredibly important, as it should be, is customer service and making sure our customers are happy. So one thing we know that maintains good relationships with customers is focusing on results and making sure that we have our reporting to our customers on time, weekly, with our analysis of what's gone well the week before and what we're going to do the next week, or what has gone badly the week before and what we're going to rectify. So a task that we have every single day is to make sure that we have given our customers a report at least once per week. So what I would say is we create the goal for a year away, and we then anticipate, estimate, and put our best guess as to what the tasks need to happen, what the tasks are that need to happen every single day to make sure that we will meet that in the end. And we don't always meet every task. We don't always do every single task all the time. But if we get, consistent with that, that's when our business starts to go up. And whenever we're not consistent with that task and the routine, that's when our business starts to go down.
And you were saying that you're writing down every day. Would you have the habit of every day you write down your diary, whatever it is, journal, your goals? Would you write that down every day, would it be? And
yeah,
is that your yearly goal, your 10-yearly goal, your tasks, or mixture? Or
it will be our yearly goals. So goals, definitely. I will be a £2 million a year business by this date. So now, as I said before, although I'll write that every day, I won't worry too much if that happened, that date comes and I haven't made it by that, because I'll trust that whatever the work I've done in this year will bring me to that at some point. But here's something that I've started to do as well, is adding our values to who we are and writing down what our values are as a business. And our values are kindness, innovation, respect, people, profit, excellence, and knowledge. And that helps, because you could become a £2 million a year business by forgetting some of those values, and that'll take you down a very dark path. Having the values and the goal together, writing them down every day, seems to be the winning formula for me, and I think it's programming that into my head.
And do you think that writing it down every day, and that, I suppose, and keeps it front foremost in your mind, that is a big part of achieving those goals.
I think so. Without that, I think we are aimless. I think there's a certain comfort in it too. I think I find myself, when I don't do that, that you feel a little bit like something's not right, like the seatbelt isn't on or something like that, that you're not going in the right direction. So I definitely get a very, there's nothing as crazy feeling as, being out of control in business, because there's a lot of stuff that you're not in control of. But let's say you're out of control of, customer satisfaction or cash flow or, sales coming in, and you can't get a handle on it. That's one way of having things written down, and those lists every day and the repetition of it is definitely a way of gaining some level of control over something that's ultimately very difficult to control: business and digital marketing, all those things.
Okay, thank you.
What do you think? What do you do, Shane?
Well, this is the thing. I want to do more of that. And that's why I'm finding this really interesting, because I don't do enough of that sort of thing that I should do. And I feel that if I did, that it would be a lot more beneficial to me and the firm. But I guess I suppose what I like to ask people this is because I want to find out, does it actually really make a difference? Because I'm a very cynical person in general. I'm always asking, okay, people say that works, but is that just...
I think, Shane, you've got to make a very good point. Again, you've made a lot of good points this evening. You can't let that planning become a distraction from actually getting the work done as well. So Michelle and I have grown a very successful practice. We have a plan, and we use the plan to get there, but it's not something that we spend hours on every day thinking about and teasing and messing about with and everything else. How we do that is, so we use Google Calendar, and there's a function where you can put in an element into your Google Calendar. So for example, it might be bank recs, and you can then expand it out across the week or the month of the year. So there's some things we have to do daily, every day of the year. There's some things that we have to do monthly. There's some things that we have to do once a week. And we fill out the time for those things because they just have to be done. It doesn't matter about what else is happening. We don't have a choice. These things must be done, and they must be done in this time. But if you, and Declan, who's on at the moment, said in a previous conversation that if you have a plan, you stick to the plan in the time when you are going to do the plan, and then trust the plan, it'll get you through that. If you know that you're going to be disciplined enough that when you do the work that needs to be done in the time you've set out for it, and you plan accordingly, that makes the process, that makes it all work effectively. If you do a plan and you're constantly breaking the plan or not doing what it says in there, all you're doing is wasting your time and stressing yourself out and all that type of stuff. So I think it's important that, yes, you have to have a plan, but don't waste a whole lot of time working it out. Find out a very simple, and our simple way is the Google Calendar thing, where you put items in, and if it's weekly, it's weekly, if it's monthly, it's monthly, and then do the work at the point that you've committed to doing it, and then you can trust the plan, and that frees up time for all the other stuff, the strategic stuff, for example, Shane, that you talked about. Because if you don't do that, and we're all guilty of this, before you know it, I think every business person, anybody that's in business, whether it's Ruth, Declan, James, Wayne, David, me, Peter, you can just get caught up in doing the things that have to be done and not taking the time to think and strategy and all that stuff that's going to grow the business. And before you know it, you become 10 years down the line, you look back and go, where did that time go? Why am I not?
Very important.
Right.
There's been a couple of questions in the chat box. There was one a while ago. There's actually two a while ago. There's one for you, Shane, and it's from James Perry. And James asks, what stigma does business need to get over? Put you right on the spot.
Have. Well, good questions. What stigma? business need to get over?
The Simpsons. That's what the stigma that the solicitors have to get. You ever see the solicitors on the Simpsons?
No.
Oh, go and watch. You have to watch the Simpsons because
Is it the one where he says, "You may know me from such things as"? No,
That's
nothing.
no, they keep wheeling it out. There's a character on the Simpsons, and his glasses are like a wee round version of these here ones.
Oh yes, I know who you're
yeah,
talking
I think
about.
every
Mr.
time
Burns is solicitor.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Mr. Burns is solicitor. He's constantly answering all the time. And he's just trouble every time you see him. By the way, they're my reading glasses. That's when I'm doing sums and stuff.
I've seen a new version of Martin on the
Yeah, that's my accountancy glasses on. But yeah, you have to get over that. And you're nothing like that shit.
I have to get over that stereotype of solicitors. Stigma, right? Okay, I think as a solicitor, what stigma as a solicitor and a business owner? I don't know stigma, but I think maybe no, stigma is the right word for this. But I think maybe sometimes solicitors need to think more about their practice as a business, as opposed to sometimes solicitors feel they're solicitors, they're not business men or women, they're solicitors, and that's nearly seen as something completely different. And I think, especially nowadays, solicitors have to regard themselves, that they're running a business. It is a business first and foremost, and it's, you have to be proud of the fact that it's a business and realize it's a business and treat it as a business. So I don't know if that's the answer to the question, but
I think that you bring up another good point. I'm going to have to stop saying that you bring up a good point. But there is when you're a qualified, certified, registered professional, you're not just a business. For example, solicitors are officers of the court, which means your responsibility doesn't just lie to yourself or your client. You have a responsibility to the law to do what's right, regardless of who's paying you. So yes, it is a business. I understand what you're saying, that you have to do what's necessary for a business thing, but you also have an additional duty of care. You also have a additional obligation, burden, as it were, over and above that, to behave in a way and to conduct yourself in a way that is, appropriate for a person of your stature. And I suppose chartered accountants, exactly the same thing. When I think of like a practicing certificate, if Michelle was going to try and get, and James will know this, if Michelle was going to try and get her practicing certificate, or if we were bringing someone from the very start to the practicing certificate now with 30 years experience, that's £250,000. By the time you take university, the professional training, the ongoing CPD, all those years of professional indemnity insurance, all the stuff that you have to pay for just to get to be an accountant with 30 years experience, that's your practicing certificate. That's your FCA practicing certificate, senior member of the institute. That can be taken away from you. You can lose your practicing certificate if you do some, or you're proven you've done something inappropriate. That's not just a normal business, that's something that puts you in a more serious role. So yes, I get what you're saying, that you have to be more like a business, but also I think in professional practice, you have to be mindful of it's not just a business, it's something else.
Yeah.
Can we do a quick fire question as well? It's one from Ruth Young from earlier on in the conversation. And Martin, I'm going to put this to you first. What has been your biggest learning in life to date? I appreciate that it is a big question for the quick fire round, but that's where we are.
You can't do anything by yourself. Very simply, you need to have people around you. The shirt on my back, the language that I speak, the chair that I'm sitting in, the knowledge that I have in my head. I didn't create any of this. It's all come from somewhere else. So when you're thinking that you need to have people around you, you need people, then you need to think, who are the right people? Because you go into any classroom, any group of 30 people, whether it's a classroom or university or wherever you get speaking, there's going to be some people that you really like. There's going to be a lot of people who are just, I like them if I see them. And there's going to be some people you don't like. I spend my time now trying to find and associate and connect with those people that I really like. People like you, Peter, people like Shane, people like Ruth. Because if you have that circle around you, people that are supportive, engaging, inspiring, motivating, that really make you want to get up and do stuff like this, it just makes life so much better. So the answer to that question is people.
I think that is super important, and I would echo it, because Look, we saved our 400 quid or however much it was on this office because we knew Shane, and Shane was able to recommend us to someone that he knew. And there are countless stories of that where whenever you connect with people, build up your relationships with people, that you can all advance farther in a great way. Shane, what has been your biggest learning in life to date?
I'm actually going to echo what Martin just said about people, and also maybe this is a question I'm going to fire back to anybody who wants to answer it or feels they can answer it, is how do you attract the right, how do you build that? How do you find the right people to build that team that will help the most in your success and your business success? Because it can be very difficult, especially with the current market at the moment. How do you find those people who will really be passionate about what they're doing, passionate about your vision and share your vision, and not just clock in and clock back out again, but actually want to see themselves as
I
much
think
of a
that's, I think Declan's just answered that question in the most succinct way. Hiring is easy, firing is a better skill. I don't think there's a straight answer to how do you find the right people. I think you just have to talk to all the people, who's coming into your environment. Yes, you can try and put yourself into the environment of solicitors or businesses or whatever that environment, the golf course or wherever that is. But you don't know until you spent some time doing this, talking to Peter, talking to Ruth, talking to Declan, whether these people are the right people or not. And you have to take the risk that it's not going to work out. Put yourself out. And with staff, I appreciate it's a difficult thing as well, but you have to be willing to give people a chance. But you have to be able to cut the cord. And I think that's what people are afraid of most. That if I invest in this relationship and it doesn't work out, I'm going to have to do something nasty or it's going to make me feel bad or uncomfortable. I think you have to realize that that's just part of the process. I'm sure there's lots of people I've bumped into in my life that maybe thinking, yeah, Martin Gilchrist, I'm not going to waste any more time on that guy. But that's okay, because there's an awful lot more people that, Shane, how long have we known each other? And we're still getting great value out of each other. I still get fantastic value out of you from time to time, and I hope you find the same way. So I would agree with Declan on that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good, Martin. And Shane, we are coming to the top of the hour.
We made it past
you
the
went in
mark.
It goes in really quick. So Peter, are you going to summarize and close? Shane, is there any final thoughts?
I'm going to just before I pass it on to, well, there are other comments. Just want to say thanks so much to everyone in the comments and that's joining us live. Like, you made this discussion alive, and it's really great. Declan, you made a great few comments, and one about empowerment and how do we get you 75% of the way there, but performance management and coaching is very important in a business to get people where they need, and that's absolutely true. Ruth, you've made another comment about when onboarding or in the discovery phase with a prospect, how do you use your values to work out if it's a good fit for you? So important. I don't know, Martin and Shane, what you think over time, you learn what customers are good fits for you and who aren't, and one of the greatest skills is being able to say no to people that just are not going to, if you can't help them, if that you won't be able to help them, having the confidence to say no and moving on from that is a very important thing to do. And Shane, Wayne Danner is saying about marketing and digital marketing having such a low barrier to entry, and really appreciate that comment from you, Wayne. And yeah, I think that's more or less all the comments. But as I said, thank you so much to everyone for participating and being a part of it. And before I hand over to yourself, Martin, Shane, thank you so much, not just for saving us some dough on getting this office rented out, but absolutely for all your networking and all your interactions and everything. And then for tonight, for joining us on Business Conversations. We really, really appreciate you giving up your time.
I have to say, thank you very much, Peter and Martin. I really appreciate being invited on this evening. I really, really appreciate it and really enjoyed it and have learned from it, which is, I guess, the whole point of it. And also, I guess it shows the importance once again, which we talked about throughout, and that's the theme maybe running through this whole evening, is the importance of connections. And it's we're learning from each other, we're bouncing ideas off. It's meeting like-minded people and connecting with them and learning from them is really, really important. So thank you.
Fabulous. Martin, over to you.
I think in summary, obviously thanks to Ruth, Declan, James, David Small, Wayne, who's just had to pop off there. Your time is valuable to us, and the fact you're here and supporting us is so important. It should go without saying, but it's also important to say. This sense of community, Shane, you have done fantastic work in the past with Referral Tuesdays, with Bismarang. You have done what we're doing now 50-fold and created huge value and a huge resource for lots of small businesses. A lot of your work has resulted in me actually winning real business. And I hope what me and Peter do here will do the same for others as well going forward. But I think maybe Peter and I have, well, I'll not speak for Peter, but certainly for me, I don't have the lofty ambitions that being a fifth of what the great work that you had done, Shane, in the past. I think all I really want to get out of this, and I would be happy if we start to build a community of people where we have Peter, Doak, and we have Shane, and we have Ruth, and we have Declan, and we have James, and we can go out for a dinner together because we know each other, because we've had a conversation together. Or that we can have another Just One Thing event, Shane, where I know who you are now. I know the quality of what you produce, and therefore I'm happy to invite people. And the same for you, Peter. If you're having a thing up in the office there in co.down, we can bring people along because we understand each other, and that's a big part of what we're doing here. So if anybody's watching that and you're thinking, or this later on, and think, why should I come on live? Why should I bother commenting on the wall? It's because we want to know who you are. We want to engage, and we want you to feel that you're part of this conversation, that you're part of this journey with us. And what Wayne's doing, we're not standing on each other's toes here. The more we do it, like if Ruth has a social media thing that like this, that's fantastic. If Declan want to do it, that's fantastic, because it gives us all more resource to go to. So the more we can get this, the more we connect, the better. The final point I want to make is, and I say it every time, but I'll try not to be so excited this time. Normally I shout and bluster and all the rest. We're now up to 27 subscribers. I tell you what, we are rocking the world here. 27 subscribers. I would love that to be 28 by next week, just to show the influence and power I have with social media. One of those social media influencers. Make me feel like a social media influencer.
You're without a doubt a social media influencer.
One more.
Certainly in this room anyway right now.
One more subscriber. That's all I want. And if you can't subscribe, go and get your sister or your mother or your best friend. Get them all now, right now, and get them to hit the subscribe button and make us famous. That's all for me. Peter, do you want to say anything else?
You mentioned what Wayne is doing at the moment. Shane, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but Wayne Danner and Martin Murta did an excellent video yesterday with, I hope I'm going to get this name right, Emmett Murta, Martin's cousin. It was a gym, and they just had the setup really, really, really good. It's their business. It's On the Biz with Wayne Danner and Martin Murta, and I just think it's an excellent piece of content that they put out every Monday night. I think they do Mondays, Thursdays, and maybe Saturdays as well. I think we've mentioned it on this cast before, but they're always very generous in mentioning us. So if you're watching this and you get any entertainment or value from what we're doing, definitely check out the chaps and see what they have to say. It's a great show. But no, Martin, that's everything from me.
Okay, I think we're done, guys.
Right. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.